Okay, good. Just double checking. So today I'm presenting Keeping It Real using authentic materials in the world language classroom. So in the last few years, I have tried to use more and more authentic materials, and I'm using almost exclusively authentic materials, as well as some readers and, you know, a few teacher created things, but most of our materials are now authentic. And I teach levels 1, 3, and 4, and 4 is our AP. So. Okay, and here's my contact information. We'll also have time for questions at the end. And there are plenty of links in my Pinterest for authentic materials. There's a ton of links on the presentation as well. There won't be time for me to go through them, but again, the presentation and the video will be available afterwards. So you will have time to play around and look at whatever you'd like to look at. And then contact me if there's any questions at all. Okay. Oh, so a lot of my pictures, not this coffee mug and pen, but the added pictures in the presentation are links themselves. That way, I just didn't give a list of links every time. So many of the pictures, click on them and they'll link you to something I created or a website or the material, the authentic resource itself. Okay, so I feel that authentic materials can be used at any level. I teach 4 sections of level 1, and my students use authentic materials all the time. And I love to point out to them, hey, you guys should be proud of yourself. This was not made for people learning German. This was actually made for people who speak German already. And if you can pull out a bit of information and understand it, then you should really feel proud of yourselves. And I think some of the students do. Yeah, so, and always remember that students don't have to understand every word. I don't understand every word. I don't understand every word in English, which is my first language, and remind the students of that. It's more about what you do comprehend and not about what you don't understand. Because if you can understand a bit of it, you can at least get the main picture, figure out what's going on. And also don't be afraid to use the same materials at different levels, but just make the tasks and activities level appropriate. And also, I need to get better about using the same materials for a couple of days. It can take a long time, and you can get down that Pinterest rabbit hole or the internet or YouTube rabbit hole looking for authentic materials. So I do know it is time consuming, but there are so many people out there who share resources and share libraries of their resources. So, you know, find those first as well. It is time consuming. Hi. So using authentic materials guide learners through interpreting authentic resources is one of ACTFL's 6 core practices. And I really do try to follow these practices most of the time when I'm teaching. So these are kind of my goals, what I'm trying to do as a teacher. And I found this on Leslie Grand's website. She is wonderful. She has so much information out there. Her Pinterest pages alone are crazy, and just so many authentic materials. She's a great blogger, and the picture on the right side is a link to her website. So this is just a nice infographic that I've found on her website about what authentic materials are. You know, they're your video clips, articles, infographics, memes, movie trailers, charts, things you bring home, pictures you take, poems, songs. I think some people think if a native speaker is creating something, that is an authentic material. But if it's made for a textbook or made for a website, like Easy German is a great YouTube channel that I use a lot, but it's not authentic because they're interviews with native Germans, but it is made for people learning German. So, you know, I still use things that are authentic. Yeah, just make sure it's something that the students are accessible, it's appropriate for their age. On occasion, there are things that slide by that can be, you know, tricky. The students pick up on things and will find, oh, Frau Carey, I think there was a picture of, I don't know, a marijuana leaf that happened once. It was so fast, so my students just laugh it off. Luckily, we have a good rapport, but just be careful, you know, do look at things and make sure it's appropriate for the class beforehand. Make sure it's something that will interest the students and they'll find funny, or, you know, it will just grab their attention, and make sure it goes with what you're teaching. Okay, so one way I find a lot of authentic materials in German is I Google things in German, but then I add the phrase afterwards, explain for kids, or simple language. And then there'll be, you know, texts that come up or videos that come up that are just lower level, but they're still for native speakers. So in German, you could go google.de, google.at, google.ch. These are Germany, Austria, Switzerland. I don't have Liechtenstein's Google on here, sorry. So then you would put in the topic you're looking for in the search bar. Say I'm looking for Wasserverbrauch, which is water usage. I would put Wasserverbrauch für Kinder erklärt, which means explained for kids. And then the leichte Sprache means simply explained, and leicht erklärt, well, simple language, and then simply explained. So these will be less wordier sources that you can find. I use a lot of kids' news websites from, you know, German media. Okay, here's a list of my favorite, a few of my favorite websites that I use. Most are children's news websites, all in German. Statista is a good one that has a lot of infographics. I use tons of infographics in my teaching, but this is a mix of text and also videos. So again, I'm not going to go through for the sake of time, but you will have these links and look. And I always look at YouTube too. Sometimes you want to even save a video. It's hard to save, but if you can find the same video that's from a news website on YouTube itself, it's easier to download that video. YouTube really is a wealth. Okay. And then here are a few of my favorite bloggers or podcasts that talk about using authentic materials, have great libraries of authentic materials, and a couple like Creative Language Class, I'm going to talk about one or two of their activities. So these are people I've all found things from, and every picture is a link to their website, blog, or podcast. Okay. I also have a library that I give to my students, and there's some traditional things like vocab games at the top, but there's also links to music, TV, movies. In miscellaneous, I have a ton of vloggers. I recently worked on finding a bunch of YouTube vloggers, and do just, you know, tell the students, give them a disclaimer that if they're looking on the vlogs themselves, they might not always be 100% school appropriate. But there were a couple I looked through and I just didn't include them because there were things that I saw right away that I didn't want my students to see. But again, they're going home and they're looking on the internet on their own too. A lot of times I do something called culture and community points every semester, where students have to do something in the target language outside of the class, and things like follow people on Instagram, follow, you know, vloggers are on there. So there is a choice to that, then they don't have to necessarily do that. And I do have a disclaimer on that culture and community points that maybe not everything is 100% school appropriate. Okay, so here are a few ideas of pre-reading activities to do, or even when you're about to watch a video and use something authentic. So you can give students a list of vocab words like projected onto your board or on your TV or whatever, and they could work on categorizing them. It's just a good way to activate the vocab, get them working with the words that they'll be seeing in the resources. You could even give students a baggie or an envelope with strips of words, and they have to move them around into different categories. The teacher, of course, well, I've done this two ways. I've done it where I've said which categories I want them to organize the words into. And I've also told the students to organize them into categories, and then the class guesses what the category is at the end, or they tell us what their category was, or we come up with a category. Again, we guess what the category was. So it's just nice to kind of get it to move around on the sentence strips or paper strips. Students can do that on their own or with a group, then they could discuss why they're putting things into certain categories. You can even take words on cards or strips and pass them one to each student as they're walking in the classroom, and they could group up that way. And maybe that's the group that's going to read the resource together or discuss, you know, have to have a standpoint on the video you're watching or something. But that would be a good way to group the students off, is giving them the words, some words that are coming from the authentic resources, and then having them physically get into the category. Use some of the vocab words or the words from the resource to create a poll, or I like Mentimeter. It's a really easy one, and you can have, it's fast and easy to use. Students will, you know, there's multiple choice on there. There's type of word or a couple words that you think when I give you a question or a category. And then one of the options on there is to create a word cloud. So the words get bigger as more students put the same thing on there. So say you're using an authentic resource on types of fruit. You could just simply say, what's your favorite type of fruit? And students could write, you know, their favorite type of fruit. Google Forms also is, I like to do polls with Google Forms and then discuss them afterwards. So I'll pull some important words and put them into questions, and the students will answer on their Google form, and then I'll show the results to the class, and we'll talk about the terms that were, or the questions that I had, and then we'll go and look at our authentic resource. And with the upper level students, I also will give them vocab words, and they will have to describe the words to their partner, kind of like a taboo game, or, you know, the partner will have to say which word the other partner is describing. Students often get frustrated when they can't have the exact word that they need to know. So I really try to practice circumlocution and tell them, you know, talk around the words that you don't know, explain them. So in class, we also do activities to practice this skill. Okay, so here's an infographic. I use a lot of infographics as a warm-up often, and then to lead into discussion. This is one about the money that's earned, male versus female athletes. In German 3, I start every year with a soccer unit, kind of reactivate some old vocabulary, and we watch a great movie called Das Wunder von Bern. I know the captions don't work very well for what I say in German. So in the film, we talk about family relationships, and it's just a really nice way to start the school year. The students really like the film. Many of them like soccer. So this is one thing, is we talk a little bit about stereotypes and about male versus female. So I don't know how well you can see, some of this is kind of small, but Floyd Mayweather, he's the top person, and the sports are in German. He does boxing. And then Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. There aren't any women until Serena Williams, which is down towards the bottom. And then we have our women down there. But men out-earn women so much, and we talked about why this could be in my class, and if it's fair, and who puts in more practice time or plays more games, or, you know, brings in more money. The students came up with good reasons why. And it's kind of good to let them also voice their frustrations and talk about, oh, that's just not fair. But this infographic really surprised me, how far the discrepancy is. This I used in level 1 when we were talking about families. We discussed what these activities were. This is from Switzerland, an infographic, and it's who does what in the household. So the blue color, the first color to the left, my husband's colorblind, so I'm trying to look out for people who are colorblind. The first side to the left, the blue color, that is men. Million hours they spend on different household activities. And on the right side, the red, is the hours that the women spend. So in German 1, we discussed who does more work for meal times. That's the first one. Who does more work for cleaning? Who takes care of the kids more? Who shops more often? And I'm asking this in German. And then I ask individual students, oh, does your mom cook? I have, some students, I know their grandparents live in their home. I'll say, does your grandma or grandpa do that? Do they, wash up and help the kids with food? Or you can even have students raise their hand or stand up if the woman of the house or if the man of the house does this. And we did do that at the end of talking about this infographic, and it was kind of sad how much the women of the house did more. And it was kind of across the board. And also, I don't always want to just say mom or dad, because I want to be mindful of the students who might not live with mom or dad. So, okay. I use a lot of videos and vloggers too. The students really like them. I try to find people around their age, college, high school students. Again, watch these first. So this is, it says in English, what's in my school bag, but then the video's all in German, and it's a vlogger. So the students, we were talking about school year, school subjects and what's in your school. And this girl just opens her backpack and pulls out items and just says, this is this. She has 2 water bottles in her hand. German kids always have water bottles with them at school. And we, that's a good discussion point. It's good to talk about the culture, and students will say, oh, do they not have water fountains? Yes, they do, but more students seem to carry water bottles than in America, in my school at least. So yeah, any kind of unboxing where people open things, or hauls when they go shopping, they will show you their haul from the drugstore or their haul from H&M. It's great, really simple vocabulary. It's almost a list. The students always say everyone talks fast. They want it to slow down, but we can watch it a couple times, or just tell them to watch it the first time, and the second time then they have to complete the activity and then watch it a third time. And it is time consuming, but they do understand it. We have good conversations out of it, and they understand things that you don't think they will. And the students, when they share what they understand, then they'll point it out to other students who will listen to. So you could print out a list of objects. That's what I did when I did this video. I printed out a list of vocab that would be in your backpack, in your school bag, and the students just circled what they saw in the video. Making a list, that's a level 1 appropriate level, looking at lists. So then we also talked about what they do, what the students then in comparison do and don't have in their bags, if anything surprised them. And we talked about adjectives. What words did she use to describe? They use a lot of English as well in German. So they'll say cool, nice, happy, but they'll pick up on the German, adjectives too. So, okay. Then sometimes videos are about watching. They don't have to be about the spoken language. They could be about what you see. These are 3 videos I used with my level 4 AP, and they are all videos about traveling to Switzerland. So they could be a good introduction to the unit. You can have students brainstorm what they already know about the topic that you're going to show the video on. The first video, Low Skates, on the left has a lot of stereotypes of Swiss people and of Switzerland in there. So we'll talk about stereotypes as well. And then I used this a second time as their assessment. The students had to create a narration for one of the videos. So I gave them all 3 videos. They picked one. They're all about 1.5 to 2.5 minutes long. And the students had to create narration about what's happening in the video. Kind of think of those Visit Michigan or Visit California commercials that we see if you watch TV that has commercials still. But I got some really nice work from the students talking about Switzerland out of this. And sometimes it's nice just to watch a video as a brain break to stay in the target language, but to give the students a little break, let them stand up or just sit and watch the video. You know, I do a lot of activities with music videos, but sometimes just having a music video break in the middle is okay. You know, 3 days a week, we have 72-minute classes. Sometimes if we just read a lot or took a long quiz or had an assessment, the students need a break. There's a great Facebook group as well called Brain Breaks for World Language Teachers, I believe. Commercials are another really short, nice, authentic resource you can use. There's a few Just Dance tutorials. It's people dancing to a song in the target language. There's a lot in Spanish. There's only a couple in German, and I found a few in French as well. So have the students get up and dance. These are also kind of nice ways to start class as a warm-up, or just have a music video playing as the students walk in. We do yoga in class. In German 4, I do a unit on health and well-being. So I found people who do yoga in German. Sometimes there's just 5-minute yoga, 3-minute yoga. There's chair yoga, so no one needs to get up. Oh, I forgot I linked the World Language Facebook group for brain breaks in there. But they share a lot of really good videos that are authentic. Okay. I also like to use Instagram and Twitter in the class and also as homework. So when in German 1, I did this in level 1, of course, they don't understand all of the words, but that's okay. I'm having them focus on what they do understand. So you can create a scavenger hunt. These are both Instagram posts, and I just searched for one of our vocab words or a couple of vocab words like klettern, which is hiking or climbing. And then there's this really beautiful sport called, I don't know in English, German wheel, Rundrad, and it's really cool. But I show the students videos of that after we look at this vocabulary. So you can give the students a list of words to find. For a lower level, I do think it's okay to give them English words and ask them, oh, you know, find 7th place, find career. A lot of time they're cognates or really related words, okay? In the upper levels a lot, I'll have them look for, I'll ask for synonyms, you know, what's another word for gut, for good, or schlimm, instead of just English to German. Ask the students what are a couple new words they picked up. They always surprise me with what they can understand from some of these, just from context. And use the hashtags. Hashtags are one or just a few short words put together. There's really great words in the hashtags themselves. Students can even create a new hashtag. And you can cut off the pictures. So I printed this on paper for the students. You can cut the pictures off and you can have them match the picture to the Instagram post itself. Again, categorizing words is always, I think, a good task for students. And the students will say, oh, can I follow them? You know, I'll say these are real posts. And they'll say, oh, can I follow? And sometimes they're like, can I follow right now? And one boy wrote something to one of the athletes and he's like, I'm telling her we're using this in German class and she's cool. But he was just so excited to connect with someone in the target language outside, you know, in the real world. I want my students to see that they can do things with German that's not just in my classroom. Here's the worksheet that I made to go along with these. There were a lot more activities or a lot more pictures. So first I gave them just vocab words, or I gave them adjectives to look at. And they had to categorize the adjectives as positive adjectives, negative, and then some neutral ones. And sometimes there's not one right answer. You know, we will discuss that as well. Students will talk about, oh, actually I added the neutral adjectives at the end because they're like, some of these aren't negative or positive, and I say sometimes it's also your opinion, and that's okay. We talk about their opinions. So I found 4 videos that are this 4 activities or sports that are lesser known, like it's called like art bike or German bike, German wheel, solo climbing, and they're kind of extreme sports. So the students watched the videos, and afterwards they talked about what they thought of each sport. So I find this sport, at the top I cut it off, but it says list 3 adjectives, you know, that you think about the sport. How do you find the sport? How do you like it? And then you can have them discuss that with a partner and try to find someone else who has similar ideas to them or totally opposite ideas to them. Okay. And students also had a lot of Twitter and Instagram feeds printed out for them for these 4 sports. And they had to say, oh yeah, I've heard this word in class already, or this word is in the Instagram post and Frau Carey wrote it up above, you know, in our vocab list for this activity. And then they also write a few words, new words that they learned that they can figure out from the tweets and Instagram posts.
Candis,
Yes?
did you have them find the Twitter and Instagram, or did you copy paste them in yourself? I missed that.
I copied and pasted them in first. Yeah. But as a homework activity, maybe, or yeah, I don't have them use their phones in class that often, and a lot is blocked for the students. So, you know, you can have them also look up these things. I'll get to that later about using this as homework too. And then students love to talk about their opinions and argue. So I will give my students these words, you know, I have a different opinion. Oh, that's nonsense. That is one of the first phrases they remember in German 1 is that's nonsense, das ist Quatsch. They like to say it all the time, or das stimmt, that's true. So you can go back to those opinions. I find biathlon, this, and this. They could talk to a partner about it, and they could say if they agree or disagree with their partner, and here's some vocabulary to help them kind of debate that a little bit. Okay. Here's just another one I wanted to show you. Look at all of the hashtags that you could use. And this we were using for, I do a unit on emotions and what makes you happy. And then we also talk about other emotions. So I just searched for the word happy, hashtag happy, I think. So, you know, there's not a ton of text there. You could also use the picture and what we see in the picture, but it is like accessible for the teacher or for the students. Okay. And grammar, you will, when you start looking or listening to songs or figuring out how to use authentic materials, you will be listening to something or looking at something and be like, oh my gosh, I could use this for comparative and superlative. Oh my gosh, I could use this for subjunctive. You know, to have a discussion based on. This is great right here. It has tons of comparative. The picture says you don't have to be prettier, richer, faster, smarter, or stronger. It's enough that you are simply yourself. So these are all great comparative adjectives in there, and it's real authentic language. Okay, so kind of what I think Tara asked is, did I have them find things, or was I the one finding the materials? So for the previous activities, I found all those things and shared them with the students, but I often will have students Google or go to Instagram or Twitter and look for vocab words and then tell me what they saw. So on the left here, we did a unit on Austria in German 3. So students just had to tell me, this is an actual student's work. Students had to tell me what they saw in pictures when they Googled Austria, Vienna, Salzburg, and Graz. So he just said, oh, I see water in a city, and there's tons of mistakes in this, but I don't care. I understand what he means. With mountains behind the, yeah, I don't know what that means actually. I see a city with old buildings and high buildings, and then just words that he understood from the text. And over here is one I gave my students for German 1 when we do an animal unit. I told them they could find their own. They could always go to google.de or ch or at if they don't want to use social media. That's totally fine with me. I also gave them some websites here too. So these are different zoos that you could follow on Instagram, and then some zoo websites. So I just told the students to pick out 5 animals or 5 posts that they saw, write the name of the animal, and then write 2 to 4 words that they understood or learned from this activity. So I'm surprised how often students will use later words, and I'll be like, did you look that up, or did you use Google Translate? And they'll say, no, I remember that word from, you know, researching animals on that one website, or I remember that word from that TV show that we watched. So they really do stick. Not everything sticks, but a good amount of vocab that they're finding is sticking. This is from Creative Language class. It's a blog and website and curriculum from 2 really amazing, they're now curriculum development and blogger people, but they used to be Spanish teachers. So this is called Highlight Away. So I would print out a text or Instagram or tweets, and on paper or online, there's online resources you can use too that let you just highlight onto the screen as well. So one option is you could have students highlight in different colors their who, what, when, where, why. Or you can just say draw a box, underline, star, if you don't want to get markers out or deal with all of that. You can also have students in different colors mark positive and negative words, facts and opinions, statements that the students themselves agree with and statements they don't agree with, or something specific to the topic you're doing. So if you're doing food, you can have students highlight breakfast foods in one color, or dinner foods in another, vegetarian in a different color. Animals, you could do carnivores, herbivores, omnivores, or animals in different countries in different colors. Okay, so there's so many things you could do with just highlighting text, having the students highlight what they understand, and again, pluck out and focus on what they do get. Okay. Another way I find good information that's simple for my lower level students is I use the word Steckbrief, and that's like characteristic sheet. So I will just Google someone's name and put Steckbrief after it, and then you get down here, this list. And there's not a ton of language, but I use this like the 4th week of school in German 1, and students can understand, you know, where this person's coming from, their birthday, where they're born. They asked what's Sternzeichen, which is their horoscope or their zodiac sign. So this website had that. And then I added just simple basic questions on there. Oh, some sound effects. Here's just another person when we were talking about sports for Steckbrief. So the last one was just more of a table, but this one is just simple, very simple sentences. And the students were using this again the first few weeks of school. So I asked like, how old is he? What color eyes does he have? And then they could just find the information down here. There's not Steckbriefe for everything, but there's Steckbriefe or these little characteristic sheets for people, of course. So any star and maybe a scientist, you know, famous people. There's these characteristic sheets for animals. So this is one for hedgehog. And I had students research animals and then create sentences about them and present on their favorite animal or their Patronus, if you like Harry Potter, or their spirit animal. So here is tons of information, and sometimes I do give them, you know, a sheet of paper that will say Nahrung is diet. I'll give them a little key in English as well. But this is a good website called Tier Lexicon. And then cities and countries often also have these characteristic sheets. So on the left, there's one for Switzerland. And then there was some paragraphs of information below it. I just took the Steckbrief part out. And then on the right, there's a characteristic sheet for Hamburg, which is a city-state in Germany. So it talks about, you know, population, and these are all words my students will, again, get a list of. I give vocab lists still. Size, location in Germany, it's in the north. Sometimes if a text doesn't come with visual, it's a good thing I like to do is have my students add pictures as a way to show comprehension. So this is 13 tips that you could do for the rainforest. We always do an environmental unit in German 3 or 4. And, you know, even if they don't understand all the words in here, sometimes just using the headers or the titles is enough, I think. So students can create pictures to go along with these. We have use recycled toilet paper, eat little or no meat, drink water, and then also this is a good command imperative form display. So students can pick just a few important words in the lower levels. You know, what are a few words you understood or saw a lot? And in the upper levels, students can discuss these things, like what are 3 of these activities that you do that are good for the rainforest already? What are 2 that you don't like to do or that you would like to try? And what's one you think maybe would be difficult for your life? So I like to use a lot of these for discussion points. I use a lot of pictures too. So there's a great link here, 50 ways to use an image. There's so many wonderful ideas on there. Just a quick couple of my favorite are to have a student ask another questions. I feel like I don't want to be the only one asking questions all the time. I want the students to practice asking questions. So I will have them ask, you know, what color is the house? How many people are there? Students can come up with the questions, and then it's less work for you. You can have one student describe the picture and another student face the student describing and not look at the picture, and the student who cannot see the picture has to draw it based off of the description from the student who's talking and is able to see it. Kind of on the same note, one student looks at the picture, has some time just to look at it, and then he must turn around and not look at the picture anymore. And the other student will ask questions like, do you remember how many people were there? Do you remember what's in front of the building? Do you remember how many umbrellas are there? What color are the umbrellas? And then the student who saw the picture at the beginning needs to try to remember what they saw. Ooh, I have so much more, but I don't want to go way over time. So I think a lot of us do gallery walks where we hang pictures around the room. These can be pictures you found, you know, on Google or your own pictures. And students walk around, they discuss the pictures. I like to use this to introduce a new unit or even review a unit that we're wrapping up. Students can write questions like, who is that? Why are these people climbing on something? If your class is too small, I've had people say, oh, my class number is so big and my class size is too small. You can have this as a station. So you can have, you know, a few different activities students are doing, and one group is walking around doing the gallery walk, or go out and use that hallway as well, if you can be out there too. Okay, so in level 1, when we talk about food, we use pictures and then videos and text. And these are kind of difficult topics or difficult resources, but the students took away a good amount from it. So we were talking about food, of course, we all like to talk about food, and then we started talking about food waste. And I tell my students to write 5 facts they learned. At first I used to always say, write this in German, I don't want any English in here, but I do think it's okay for them to show you some understanding or reflect on something in their native language. they're still showing you that they understood. You know, one of my students said she didn't even know food waste was an issue, and students were really shocked that how much food is wasted. And then I gave students a few videos to watch and a few, you know, quick infographics or easy text to read. And the students had to create 7 tips to combat food waste. So these are some that I got from German 1 students, and I did this during the quarantine. So by regional foods, and the students, you know, found the text out of the readings or from the videos, and then they added pictures in. So they're showing that they understood what's going on. They didn't come up with the words on their own, but they're using it from the materials. Okay, and here's just another one, you know, talking about the date. Sometimes food is better longer than you think, and then store your food right and be creative with food. Rest. Okay, have students also use real websites. So if you're talking about transportation, have them hop on a flight, an airline website or a train website. Have them type in different cities and map out routes. Look at the word for, you know, price or length, duration. I always forget in English when you have to get off and back on what that is. Oh well. But it will tell you like how many different types of transportation you have to take. You know, Airbnb or real estate websites are great to look at real homes, real home prices, home sizes, and talk about what the homes come with and don't. Before I started teaching, I didn't know in German-speaking countries, the kitchen often doesn't come with the home. You have to put in all the cabinets and refrigerator and everything, and that's different than here. You know, use zoo websites. Level 1, my students use zoo websites to look up animals. Yelp and TripAdvisor are great for people's opinions talking about restaurants. Amazon, we did a technology and, oh goodness, advertisement kind of unit, and we looked at the reviews on Amazon in the target language. Yeah, cooking websites, you can have the students look on there. There's just so many websites that you could use. Movie times, it's really easy. Look up times, price of movie, popular movies when you're you know, teaching times. So here are just some, here are some reviews that I took from Yelp. So these are real Yelp reviews. I just looked for like restaurants in Dresden, and students had to categorize restaurant words, negative words, food words, and positive words. And then they wrote their own reviews for a restaurant here near them that they like and don't like. Okay. Also, when you're looking for authentic materials, please try to make sure that you're painting a diverse and inclusive picture of the target culture. There's a German teacher in Texas, Daphne Warren, and I got to present with her at ACTFL a few years ago on an inclusive classroom for the German classroom. So there's a link to that you can explore later. You know, and these are in units you're already teaching. So in sport and hobbies, there's a great video here about wheelchair tennis, and, you know, use people of color, people who don't look like the stereotypical person. When I Google things for German, yeah, a lot of families are white or blonde, and that's not every family though, and I want my students to see that. When we talked about technology, I shared with my students an article I found about women inventors. And when we learn about families, I give the students vocab for adoptive family and same-sex couple. You know, not all families are your typical mom and dad. So the students are able to use that vocab and have words for that and see that, you know, their family maybe is different. And here's the vocab for it, and that's great. You can also use music, videos, and trailers. So I do a lot with music. Put lyrics in order. You can have pictures that the students put the pictures in order, or they They have to lift up the pictures when they correspond with the lyrics. Students can act out certain words when they hear them. Again, this might be just a fun kind of brain break or warm up. It doesn't always have to be so serious. Divide the lyrics and have students stand up when they hear certain words. Teach grammar and context. Have the students find songs for you and music videos for you and share them on a message board and talk about why they like and don't like it. And when we talk about emotions, we also talk about music and how they feel for certain songs, how certain music makes them feel. I'm almost done. The comments on YouTube too. People write really nice things on comments, so you can discuss what's being written and what do people like the song overall. Are people being negative or positive about this song? Yeah, what kind of things do they like or point out? So it's a nice way to get some text with a video too. Again, about what you see, students can see a scavenger hunt, or they can see a music video, and you just tell the students, all right, watch this very closely. I'm going to ask you questions about what you saw. It's about what you see, not about what you hear later. So we'll watch this music video, and then I'll ask students very specific questions, like what color was the ribbon that the boy held? What hangs up behind the band? It's a basketball hoop. Which animal's on the sweatshirt? So, or you can have the students come up with questions to ask each other, or try to, quiz the teacher, get the teacher. A lot of us do movie talks, and there's great YouTube videos on how to do a movie talk if you don't. Some people play a video and stop it. I like to just take snippets, use a snipping tool, and put pictures from a video or a movie trailer into a Google slideshow and use that to talk with the students. So that way I'm not playing and stopping and playing and stopping. And then we'll watch whatever video afterwards. And these are all links. The pictures are links to movie talks that I've made. You can also have students compare two songs when you're using music. I found two songs about German teachers. The students like one more than I thought they would. It's surprising which one they like. But yeah, which song is faster, slower? Which one has more instruments? Which song do you like more? So good use of comparing. I also use songs to talk about dialects. I really like Austria a lot, so I teach a unit on Austria, and I do teach a unit on Switzerland. I just know more about Austria as well. So here are some songs in Austrian dialect, and also in German dialect. So expose the students to what your target language can sound like in different areas. And then to assess using authentic resources, I got this from Senora Chase's website. Again, at the beginning, I was like, do I want to have students write things in English? But I think it's okay to show that they comprehended something. So, list 6 words that you heard or read. This can be used for listening quiz or reading. What's the general idea? And what are a few details that you understood in English? And she has this labeled as A, B, C. So if you could do just words, you're C. And I like that it also has novice low, novice mid, novice high. Another way you can do this is give the students words to find in English, or you can use synonyms in your target language. You can give them information. It says, what 5 ideas here were in the text. So I wrote a few ideas that were not in the text, and students have to circle what was in the text and then write the letter next to the sentence in the target language over in the authentic resource, and then talk about the main idea. I want to end because I don't want to go over time. I want to leave time for questions. There's really just 2 or 3 slides left, but I think I should end. I want to be respectful. So I will open up for questions.
Questions, John, do you have questions on the chat?
There are lots of positive feedbacks. Some teachers. Okay, thank you, Candis. So there are a lot of teachers. They're wondering if you'd like to share the PowerPoint with us.
Yeah, I'll absolutely share this. I'll put it on my Facebook. I'll give it to IFLTA to do whatever they like on IFLTA's Twitter Of course.
Much appreciate.
Any question from the audience?
There is actually one from Shelly McClam. She
Amanda?
says, you mentioned at the beginning, assuring students can use this but will not understand everything. I do the same thing and remind them of reading strategies. If I ask about a location, find the area on the infographic that has a map. Is there a good way to structure this? I found many students still freaked out and parents also question the use of the resource, to which the response was to refer back to the task. So what's a good way to structure use of these infographics in class?
Oh, I'm not sure. Again, I just give them that precursor. You're not going to understand everything. Do not be freaked out. It really is okay. Be proud of yourself and celebrate what you do understand. Yeah, I always worried I would hear more complaints from parents about using more of the target language and target language resources in the classroom, but I haven't. You know, on occasion they'll say, oh, my child said they don't understand because it's in German. But I invite them. You can even invite the parents to come to your classroom. I don't know if that's allowed. And show them, you know, how you make things comprehensible. When I have parent open house, I, you know, tell them things I do. I also write a letter, a welcome letter, an email at the beginning of the year saying why I use more target language resources, why we don't use a textbook, why I speak more of the target language. And I think when you're open and upfront about it like that, I really have seen a lot more positive come out of using more of the target language and resources. So.
Candis?
Yes?
There's a question. What is
Okay.
the stack brief? What is stack brief?
Okay, Steckbrief is a German term and it just means like characteristic sheet or like info sheet.
Okay, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
there's another question. Would love to hear the ending, please. Is the ending about assessment?
Oh, the last few slides, the ending about assessment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ending is about assessment.
Oh, I was done with assessments. Just, you know, have the students find the vocabulary, main idea, a few details. Yeah.
Oh, there's another teacher site. Please put on your website. Not everyone uses Twitter.
Oh, on the IFLTA website, is that what she means? That's, yeah, that's fine with me. It can go wherever it wants to go. I don't have my own website.
Okay. And another question, how many percentage were you using in target language for level 1 discussion you mentioned?
Yeah, for level 1, I do try to stick to ACTFL's 90% in the target language. Does it mean I'm at 90% or the students are at 90% every single day, every single activity? No. Would I love for it to be there? Yes. But I find if you give them, you know, a list of words, sentence starters, that at level 1, they will be repetitive, but the students can tell you their opinions and have mini discussions and mini debates. And yeah, some students will break in, even in level 3 or 4, into English as well. And just try to gear them back towards the target language.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And yeah, there's another question. I got two a lot of messages. Okay. Do you pre-teach vocabulary before using authentic materials, or do you use authentic materials to teach vocabulary?
I think I shared some ideas about that. Sometimes I do pre-teach vocabulary. I do always give a vocab list. And then to find my authentic materials, I will search like hashtag and use our vocab list, or I will Google, you know, using our vocab words. And the students will pick up words though that are not on the list at all, and they'll ask about certain words. If you go back in the presentation, there are some pre-reading or previewing activities I gave, like categorizing the words, having a discussion. The teacher takes some of the vocabulary that will be that'll be in the resource, and the teacher will ask questions, and open a discussion to students using that vocabulary. I do a lot with pictures. I am awful at drawing, but I will draw on the board and, you know, we'll talk about some of the vocabulary, but we won't go over, you know, every word that's in the resource at all.
Okay, thank you. We have the last question. How much scaffolding do you provide for the different levels? Preview scaffolding?
Like I said, I think I give a lot of, you know, list. I give a lot of examples so the students can use part of my language, so the students, you know, have some support for discussing these things or their opinions. And, you know, in level 1, it's okay to highlight words or make a list or categorize things. And in the upper levels, it's good to discuss things, have discussions, have debates, you know, talk about with the partner what you would do or using the resources.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent, Candice.
Hang on a second, Israel. There was one last question. Candice, what is your Twitter handle? There we go.
I have Twitter. It's Frau Carey 27, but I only use it to find resources. Like, I never post anything, and I tried to be active on Twitter, but I do a lot more on Facebook and Instagram. Like the AATG listserv fans, the American Association of Teachers of German, they have a really great group, and I share on a lot of Facebook groups, but I'm not active on Twitter, but I have it.
Excellent, excellent, Candice. This has been an excellent and an outstanding